difficult to define the movement. I think the animal protection movement as a whole, what animals, what tactics, what players, organizations, individuals, corporations, governments, are they part of the movement? Are other movements part of our movement? Are we part of their movement? These are major questions, and the dynamics are constantly shifting. In terms of solutions, I think animal law has 3 different types of value. And as animal lawyers, we should be thinking in all 3 of these ways. So first, it's a standalone vocation or profession and, set of tools that we have. Second, it's integrated within almost every other part of the movement in a supportive or collaborative role. Third, as a lens and a skill set to help set agenda for the overall movement and for the culture as a whole. How can legal thinking and the historical value law has played in social movement add value to this, help people give meaning to the issue, give language to the issue, and help make it resonate with them and the values that they already hold, which are justice and compassion. And what we're really trying to do is get people to apply those concepts to animals.
I think the impact of animal law is not fully felt by most people, not because the impact isn't there, but because people in the general public don't relate to animal law. So it's not a question of impact so much as a question of relatability. The animal law that I've been exposed to as an outsider sort of adjacent to the animal law world is that lawyers see it as very much a fringe thing, and those impacted by animal law see it as something that is only for a select few in a certain interest area. And that's the area that I think animal law can improve in the most, which is to show that our everyday humanity is very much impacted by animal law.
There is an institutional set of obstacles that interfere with any kind of animal advocacy, because animals tend to be outside of the circle of care of humanity as a rule, making exceptions for things like companion animals and wild animals that we like. But in terms of obstacles, the obstacle really is taking seriously the need for protection of animals as a global necessity.
I think that we'll probably never reach such a point, and that the nature of exploitation and greed and all of these things will require that we continually evolve and change how we think about the law and the protections that animals need. And as society changes and the climate changes and the technology's changed and everything else, so I think that it's a combination of needing to continually sort of reinvent animal law and needing much wider spread understanding and of our place embedded in ecosystem and a community of creatures, that it's far bigger than just mankind.
One of the probably biggest factors that sort of leaks into everything is the fact that you have concentrated industry interest and power that is better financed and has been around and sort of infiltrated the levers of government and industry for much longer than animal advocates have. Trying to unwind that is the challenge of our lifetime, and I think we're trying a variety of different ways to do that, legislatively, through litigation, through regulatory advocacy, and through education. All things that seem to be the theme of this conference.
I think the animal industrial complex, to use a term coined by Barbara Noske many years ago, is holding back animal law, and it's not surprising. And so that means these deeply embedded and intertwined connections between industry, science, and the government. And that's a really powerful thing to disentangle. And I think the way we go about doing so is by working together, because there are only a very small handful of multi-billion-dollar international companies that control animal agriculture, and there are so many, not only billions and billions of animals who are harmed by them, but millions of humans, the environment. And if we can collaborate together, I think that's our only chance of getting at this issue.
There's a lot of opportunity for animal law to have more impact than it's having right now, and there's a lot of things that are holding it back. One of them is that although there is a growing, robust ecosystem of animal lawyers and people working in animal policy, animal law academics, those different spheres are not as connected as they could be. I think that having events like the Brooks Congress is going a long way in bringing people together from those different spheres. But there's so much research being done in advocacy organizations, research being done in private practice, and of course in academia and scholarship, that these different spheres are not tapping into nearly as much as they could be. So if there was some kind of mechanism, some kind of central gathering point for academic writing, for advocacy research, for private practice research, I think that if there was more of an accessible library to all those resources, then whatever sphere you're practicing in or advocating in or studying in, the whole movement is going to have more impact by having more access to those resources and more access to one another. So we get a greater sense of really how many of us are working on the various issues in animal law and what kinds of connections are possible.
I think animal law, it's wonderful that we have animal law courses, but I think we have to basically infiltrate the other courses, because in reality, animal law is every kind of law. It's contractual law, it's in tort law, it's trusts and estates, local government law. So I think we need to not only focus on animal law courses, but on trying to bring other law professors around to including animals in their curriculum.
I think the impact of animal law will really be amplified if we can do a lot more cross-movement building. I think that right now, as much as we try, animal law is a little bit siloed in that we have folks working on different areas of animal law, whether that's companion animals, wildlife, farmed animals, when really I think we need to be reaching across to our colleagues who are working in areas such as environmental law, for example, or workers' rights, things of that nature, because we do have a lot of intersection. We're all going to be stronger if we work together. And I think if we can really position animal law as less of a niche and more of an area that crosses many other industries and many other disciplines and focuses, we'll be able to broaden our tent and strengthen our collective mission.
I think animal law has had an impact. I do think that there are certain situations where there can be a greater impact. The first thing that I would suggest is more collaboration between the groups. I know sometimes people are insular, they like to work within their own little silo. I think there's a lot of power and synergy between groups working together, whether that's sharing facts from an investigation, public records request, whether it's sharing litigation ideas, or just helping brainstorm. So I think breaking down some of those walls and getting the groups to collaborate and realize that this is not one organization to solve the issue, but it's a lot of organizations coming together to defeat this mammoth issue. I think we have to find the balance where we're actually putting forth novel ideas, but we're being conscious of the effort that we're spending, and we're not afraid to try things that are new and maybe somewhat unknown. So I think we need to be aware of that balance as well.
I have thought about this question, and I think that the thing that is holding animal law back is lack of practitioners. And the movement has grown in so many ways and in so many important ways since the founders developed these theories in the 80s. I think it was like the late 70s or the 80s. But as lawyers have grown up in the movement, they've either transitioned into different types of private practice or gone into academia and sort of left the practice behind. And as a litigator, I see the effects of that all the time because there's fewer and fewer people who are capable with the skills and knowledge and experience necessary to do the biggest, hard-hitting, most riskiest cases. And so from a litigation perspective, I think that lack of experienced senior practitioners is definitely holding us back.
Animal law is an interdisciplinary and still emerging field. The bulk of the impact litigation is brought on by nonprofit practitioners, but the nonprofit space is constrained by limits in donor dollars as well as funding trends. At the same time, private practitioners haven't yet fully understood what animal law is, how broad it is, and how it might fit into their practice, either on a pro bono basis or even on a contingency model.
I think there are many things that we can do in our field, in our movement, to enhance the quality and the impact across sectors. So the first thing that we really have to do is we have to work cross-movement. We are now at a point in the world of animal protection where we can proudly say that we have law schools, we have nonprofit organizations, we have young people who are looking and seeking to build a practice in this world of animal protection when we don't actually have the laws that we want to protect the animals in the way that we want to protect them. The question is, how do we move forward as a group? And so if we can all kind of not compete with each other, but work together, I think we can really move the needle in this next, in the next 25 years. So I do look forward to that. I hope it happens, and I think that we need to keep our philosophy very open source, if that's possible. There's like this old guard, right, of animal law and animal protection, which is full of wisdom, full of strategies, full of hope. I mean, they're who we look up to, but there is this brewing kind of group of the younger generation. And I think that we need to open forums for them to feel comfortable, to speak up, to suggest, different ways of tackling a situation. So I would really like for us to have more leadership where we have people from different backgrounds, people from different cultures, people from different religions. Like, there's so many ways of looking at animal law and understanding it. I am just completely inspired by how they think about what they want to do in life. They're thinking about impact. So we need to take advantage of that momentum and show them what that career path is by just making sure that whatever we do, whatever large conference we have, whatever large gathering we have a panel that is specifically directed to careers in animal law.
I've been in the field of animal law for about 10 years now, and I think the thing that stands out the most to me is how much we rely on very irrational actors to actually lead this movement. I think all of us who've joined the field, it's not been necessarily advantageous for our career. We ask people to make great sacrifices to do this. If it's someone in academia focusing on animal law, it's not necessarily a benefit. It's more like, I can do all these other things if you will let me also focus on animal law. And in private practice, for my personal experience, coming into this field, I had to take a 80% pay cut. And now that I'm someone who's been interviewing probably over 100 candidates over the last 10 years, I just have so many young, brilliant lawyers. And we go through the process. They're so passionate. They really want to do this work. But when it comes time to actually make that jump, to walk away from this lucrative practice that they have, they're just not able to do it for whatever reason. And it's hard not to think about all those brilliant people who we couldn't bring into the field and what they could have accomplished if they were working with us.
Oftentimes we don't put things together, as in you can care about animals while also being an attorney to do good work for animals. So I think it started younger with folks. And I can't tell you how many people I met who became attorneys for animals. Were like, you know what? It was later in life that I realized that I could be an attorney to help animals, when I wish I kind of knew sooner, because that would have been helpful on my track forward. So what I would say is, when we're helping younger folks grow up in our movement, hey, whatever they do for animals, great. Just shine a bit more of a spotlight on being an attorney for animals.
I think it's having a big impact already. Let's acknowledge that. Look at the growth in the law, in academia, in the litigation, and the shifting of the social consciousness. Now that said, I think we all know we have a long way to go. So I would say, first, increased intersectionality with other areas of the law. So environmental law, food law, all of these areas are also animal law, and finding ways we can work together with those other areas for shared goals and mission. Unions, workers, very important allies, and working together, that's going to push things forward. I think not making the perfect the enemy of the good, too, would be another area. I think trying to have a utilitarian approach to creating the least suffering possible for animals in all the different ways that we act, but doing that incrementally and understanding that, like most social change, it's a generational process. It's not going to happen overnight. We stand on the shoulders of those before us, and those after us will stand on our shoulders.